Alright, this video is going to go over some of the things you need to know for writing your 1.2.6 case report. So first of all, you should have already completed Anna Garcia's autopsy report by now. Make sure that is done. If you have any questions about it, come see me about it and I'll help you out with it. Alright, so in the actual case report section here, there are a bunch of resources here to help you make sure that you write your paper properly. Alright, the first one is a link to the Purdue OWL APA style guide. Make sure you look over this. This is going to guide you into like how to set up your paper, how to make sure you're formatting things properly, how to set up your title page, make sure your font's good, what your heading should look like, that sort of thing. And there's even examples of like what your title page should look like, what sort of things you need to make sure that you include on it, what your abstract should look like, so what an abstract page should look like, that sort of thing. And there's a bunch of other information up here. There's some information about like basics, types of APA papers, a bunch of information that you probably don't really need that much of right now, but make sure you at least go over the general format so you know how to format your paper, because you do need to make sure that your paper is in an APA format. It is part of the rubric and I will be grading it. The next link is over APA style sample papers. So if you go here and you click on APA sample papers, it'll take you to this page. You can check these out. There's links and papers to download. You can look at what sample papers look like. So check those out so you can get a feel for what your paper should look like as well. The next link is the My Appeal to DW Technical Writing Resource page. This is linked and you can find it from one of the pages in 1.2.6. This is just some background information about like technical communication, what technical writing should look like, considering your audience, knowing how to like basically just like how to write in a technical manner, the kind of like language you should be using, the kind of voice you should be using. I would definitely look over this before you do any like new writing. Speaking of new writing, there's not that much new writing that you're actually going to be doing for this paper. Most of it is just collecting stuff you've already done. So for example, you should pull in your evidence summary table that you did back in 117. You should still have that saved somewhere. You're just going to basically be copying that into your paper at one point. I've linked here the helpful information for the evidence summary table here again. So this is here. We also looked at it in 117, so you should have used it to do your evidence summary table, but if you need to look at that again, you can look at that again as well. So finally, we come to the actual assignment that you're going to be turning things into here on Canvas. Unless you choose to turn your paper in on paper, like if you want to print it off and do it that way, that's totally fine. But you will want to make sure that you look at the assignment on Canvas. I've got some information here to help you out with that as well. Some recommendations, some advice. Make sure to look over this and look over the rubric before you turn it in. So make sure that your rubric is getting 4s or 3s if you were to self-grade it yourself in all of these categories. Make sure you include everything you should. Your paper should include everything from the project checklist. So the 126 case closed project checklist. And it should have these things in this order. So your cover page, your title page is first, then your abstract, your evidence analyze, which includes the evidence summary table, and then you will have to write a summary paragraph. So that's something new you're going to have to write. You'll have your autopsy report, which you can just insert in after you're done with it. This timeline, this does not have to be like the timeline you have in your lab journal. Use your timeline in your lab journal to like write out like a bullet point list timeline of like some of the key events and when they happened. That's fine for this paper. So pull out some of the most important details for the Anna Garcia case to help kind of like establish the timeline. Your conclusions and recommendations is the other big chunk that you're going to have to be doing fresh writing for. And this is basically where you're summarizing and justifying your conclusions. Look at your autopsy report where you have cause of death in your kind of case summary. Your conclusions and recommendations, a lot of your conclusions you can pull straight from there. Expand on it maybe a little bit, what you have from your autopsy report. Explain the reasoning, the evidence that supports the cause, mechanism, and manner of death that you've come to. Make sure you cover all three of those things: cause, mechanism, and manner. And then you're also going to make recommendations to law enforcement. Don't forget that part. You're going to need to say to law enforcement, okay, what should they do next? Are they going to investigate a particular person further? Are they going to charge somebody with something? Or are they going to close the case? Based on what you determine the manner of death to be, right? So make sure to include that. Very important piece of information here for you, piece of advice. Your abstract, even though it's like the first thing in your paper after your cover page, you should write that last, because your abstract is a summary of your entire paper. So even though it's the first thing in your paper, Don't write it first, okay? Write it last. Do your evidence analysis, include your autopsy, your timeline, your conclusions, recommendations, all these things first, because you're basically going to be writing a brief summary of the entire paper, right? Like one big long paragraph that's going to be on its own page. Your cover page is its own page, your abstract is its own page, and then all of these things should have their own headings in the paper. They don't have to be on their own pages. So page 1, cover page, page 2, abstract. On page 3, you'll start with your evidence analysis, and then you will just continue with your paper from there on out, right? A lot of that stuff is also covered here. So make sure to check out this information. I recommend using Microsoft Word. You can also use Google Docs. Microsoft Word just makes it easier to copy over that evidence summary table that you worked on before. But you might have already made your evidence summary table in Google Docs. That's fine too. Either way, Google Docs or Microsoft Word should work. And just make sure that you're following all that advice. If you need help, you get stuck, you want me to look at something, just let me know. I will take a look at stuff for you. I'm not going to grade the whole paper for you before you turn it in. You're going to turn it in, and I'll grade it. As a reminder, this does go in the assessments or the test category. So this is a big grade. It will impact your grade if you do a good job on it. It'll bring your grade up, okay? Let me know if you need any help, of course, and I am here to help you.